Hello, I'm Kevin DeForge, founder and CEO of Echodify, and in this video I would like to show you everything there is to know about virtual legacies, how to create them, and how to send them. So let's get started by first logging in to the Echodify web app, which I will do right now. Take my phone to receive the multi-factor authentication code. And here we are, logged into the web app. This is what we call the start page, as you probably learned from other videos. And you can kind of see that up here in the address bar in some browsers. And your start page might look a little different than this as we continue to improve the product and make things look and work better. In the video about virtual legacies, I showed you where to go to browse all of your received and sent, created and draft virtual legacies. But in this video, I want to focus specifically on the virtual legacy in terms of creating one and everything there is to do with it. So let's get started by first bringing up a brand new virtual legacy. So I'm going to go ahead and on the upper menu bar, on the wand button, the wand with the stars, I'm going to click that to drag the menu down, and I'm going to select New Legacy. And for those of you using assisted devices, you can just tab over to that button, click it, or press enter, drop it down, and use your arrow keys to navigate. So let me go ahead and click on New Legacy. And in the About Virtual Legacies, I went over the 4-step process, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I know that I already have a new legacy I've already purchased, and we're going to use that to get started. So to bring that up, I'm going to press number 2, select a new VL. And in my box down here that lists all of my new VLs, I have one, a 500 megabyte virtual legacy up to 30 years. And so to open that up so that we can edit it and create it, you just click. Now, since I was on the 4-step legacy creation process here, where I'm given the 1, 2, 3, 4 steps in creating a virtual legacy, by clicking that virtual legacy, I was brought to step number 3, which is manage my uploads. But I'm going to save this for another instruction video that will be placed down here, how to manage your uploads. So let's go ahead and skip over this and go right to step 4, create the VL. If I click that button, I am now presented with a blank virtual legacy. Let me just recap just for a moment. By going and clicking on a blank new virtual legacy in step 2, I progressed to step 3. I could have managed some of my file uploads there if I wanted to, but I didn't. I went right to step 4. And I am able to click on step 4 and come directly into this virtual legacy, which is now in edit mode because I had already selected one. If you do not select a new virtual legacy and you click on step 3, manage uploads, you actually will be able to do that. You'll be able to manage and curate your file uploads there. However, you will not be able to click on step 4, create the VL, because you had not already selected one. But we did select one. And here it is. This is a draft virtual legacy. Let me walk you through the main components of a virtual legacy. So to start with, up here we just have a title, 500 MB, that stands for megabytes, max or maximum 30-year virtual legacy. And in the title bar, there actually is a button called Properties, which I can click to drag down a little reference area with properties concerning this virtual legacy. I'm going to go ahead and click that again to collapse that section. We're going to come back to it real soon. Immediately below the title, I have a small section where I am showing that I am the owner, or rather the author, of this virtual legacy. Here's my username, Ambient Drone. And over here on the right-hand side is simply the small icon that represents this virtual legacy. This one happens to be a silver virtual legacy 500 megabytes for a maximum 30 years. And so I have the silver bank vault here. Immediately below, I have some metrics. First is total space, which says 500 megabytes, and that should make sense because that's the size of the virtual legacy. Next, I have used space, which is 0. And next, I have free space, which is 500 megabytes. Pretty simple. And right below those three, there's this measurement bar that's going to give you the percent of your free space that you have used. And right now, it's 0.0%. Now let's get into the details of the actual fields that you are able to configure in this virtual legacy. First and foremost is a section right here where you are going to manage your file attachments. So let me just, as a foundational issue, explain to you that there really is two things when dealing with files. You upload files into a certain data storage area that we call a common file storage, and you can attach files to a virtual legacy. Sometimes you do both in one movement. You can upload a file and it's attached to the virtual legacy in one motion, but sometimes you can manage your file uploads separately, or I should say separate from any virtual legacy. And later, when you're actually looking at a specific virtual legacy like this one, you're able to use this drop down here and select specific file uploads that you've already uploaded into your common space that are not yet already attached to this virtual legacy, and thereby here giving you the option to attach them. Let's go ahead and immediately attach a file, and let's suppose that there's this photograph, great-grandpa 1908.jpg, is a file that I would like to attach to this virtual legacy. And so I'm going to select it with a click, and I'm going to go over here where it says attach, and I'm going to click once. The virtual legacy updated, and as you can see, I now have a photograph file here that's entitled great-grandpa 1908.jpg. And I have two small orange buttons, one that says detach, one says download, and those only mean that if I click the detach, it will be detached from this virtual legacy, but not deleted, because this file physically exists in my common file storage, which is over and above all of my virtual legacies. And second, this download button here, if I click it, will allow me to save a copy of this file locally on my computer. Now let's just suppose that I happen to know all the files that I have already uploaded, which exists in my common file storage. I want to attach to this virtual legacy. I want them all attached into this particular one. Well, to do that, I can go ahead and click this button, attach all CFS, that stands for Common File Storage, files. Let's go ahead and click that button. If I click that button, all of my files that I've uploaded, which exists physically in my common file storage, are now attached to this virtual legacy. And now, if for some reason I want to start fresh and I want to detach all of these files, I will simply go ahead and press detach all files. And now they are detached. Remember, that doesn't mean they're deleted. They still exist in your common file storage. They are simply not associated with this particular virtual legacy. And here's how you can confirm that. If I scroll just to bring the screen all the way up to the top, and I come over here, the menu bar, to this file upload icon, and just to be clear, if I click on the plus, expand this file menu, you can see it does say my uploads, and if I click there, I now have a bird's eye view into my common file storage, or my CFS. Think of this as the disk drive, if you will, that actually physically holds your files. And I can see that they're all here. They have not been deleted. So now let's exit common file storage and go back to that virtual legacy that we've already begun to create. Now, just as an important note, we've already begun to create the virtual legacy. It's no longer new. So just watch this for a second. If I click the wand, I go to New Legacy, and I go to Step 2, Select a New VL. It's no longer here because we've already messed around with it, if you will. So that virtual legacy is now a draft virtual legacy because remember, we did some things to it. And we can access our draft virtual legacies by coming over here to our virtual legacy icon. And if I click, I get all 4 types of my virtual legacies: received, delivered, created, and drafts. And I want to go over here and click Draft Legacies because this is actually the virtual legacy that we just were looking at. And I'm going to click Edit to open it up in edit mode, just to bring us all the way back to where we were before we went to confirm that we did not delete those files by looking at our common file storage. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click this button again to attach all CFS files. Click, and here they all are attached to this virtual legacy. In the instruction video about the common file storage, I describe why we have a common file storage that is over and above all of the virtual legacies that you can have and how that all works. But suffice it to say right now, for this purpose, we have the common file storage because you can have more than one virtual legacy. And it's conceivable you want to put the same file in multiple virtual legacies, as well as maybe some files that are specific to specific virtual legacies. You want to mix things up. And having a common file storage area in which you curate your file uploads that is separate and distinct from your virtual legacies just really makes sense to us, because think of it this way: you can upload everything you ever wanted to upload into your common file storage. No one can access those files except for you, ever. And then after you do so, you can take 3, 4, or 5 different virtual legacies and actually select which of those specific files are then going to be attached to those specific virtual legacies. That's enough to be said right now about the file attachments. So I'm going to move on to the next several sections. And the next several sections are going to look exactly like what an echo looks like. And if you've already watched the instruction video on that, you should be able to recognize that in this virtual legacy, I can write a subject, I can write a message, and I can choose recipients that this virtual legacy will be delivered to. And then I click Add once I select a recipient, and I can build a list here of multiple recipients if I want to. And then I select the send date. This part is identical to an echo. So let's go ahead and put some text in here. And this is just for illustration purposes. So I'm just going to select, yay, hello, my friend. Hello, I would like you to have these files in the future. And I'm going to build a recipient list by selecting, let's say, 3 people. I will select this person, Rob DeForge, and I will click Add. And his little profile capsule appears here on the recipients list. I'm going to go ahead and click John Rico and then Add. And then there he is there. And then last, I'll select Samantha E. Jackson, and I'll click Add. And there, I've built a recipient list of 3 people. And those 3 people, just bear in mind, are already on my contacts list. I've already connected to them. They're either friends or family. Or if I want to send a virtual legacy to an organization like Echodify or Shane Landing, I can also select one of those. In fact, I'll just do that right now, and I'll click Add. We'll add Shane Landing there. You can actually see it's an organization by the default icon that appears there. And then just like an echo, let's choose a send date. And this is if I scroll to the top, this is a 500 megabyte maximum 30-year virtual legacy. And over here, just to help me have visibility into when this virtual legacy does expire and end, It says here, send date on or before December 23rd, 2053. That's because I actually purchased this virtual legacy December 23rd of last year, 2023. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a date. I will just make something up. August 5th, 2047. And now if I click create, this virtual legacy is going to be created, which means, remember, it's going to be in kind of that holding pattern, waiting for the send date to arrive, August the 5th, 2047, on which date it will be sent to my recipients. So let's go ahead and click create. And now this virtual legacy is created. We have a message here that says, note, your VL is live and will be sent on the send date. Okay. And we notice here that we can't edit any of these fields anymore, at least in this, this mode. We call this mode display mode. And notice that I can't detach any of these files anymore either, at least in this mode. I can still download them if I wish because I'm the author. These are my files, and downloading is not really editing anything. So I can still download, but I can't detach. However, at any point before the send date, I can always come back and click the edit button and bring this virtual legacy back into edit mode. And when I do that, now I can detach specific files. I can change the subject in the message. I can change any of my recipient list. Let's say that I want to get rid of John Rico as a recipient. All I have to do is click this red X to remove him. I'll click it. He's gone. If I drop the recipients, I should say if I drop the list of potential recipients down, you'll notice his name was added back to that list. So if I change my mind, I can just select him again and click add. There he is back there again. And I can change the send date. Now, because I edited this virtual legacy, it actually changed types. It was created, waiting to be delivered when the send date arrived. But I clicked edit so that we can go in here and change some things. That actually brings it out of created type and puts it into draft type. And if I scroll up, I can verify that by looking at the title. This is now a draft virtual legacy, which means if I click save, it's going to save it as a draft. It will not save it as the virtual legacy that was once created. In order to create this virtual legacy and get it ready to be sent when the send date arrives, I have to click create. So I just want to make that distinction for you right now. And of course down here, if I just want to totally delete this virtual legacy, basically erase everything that I did in it, I can click delete. What it will do is it will clear out or detach all my files, blank out all of these fields, and it will return this virtual legacy back to a new state where it will once again appear as a new virtual legacy. In fact, let's go ahead and do that so you can see how it all works. Remember, when files are detached, they're not deleted. These files are still in my Echodify account, and they are still physically located in my common file storage, but they will just be detached from this virtual legacy when it's deleted. And let's go ahead and press delete. And I'm brought back to the start page because I've completely exited out of that VL, and it's been brought back into a new state. So let's verify that. We can verify that by going up here to the wand, making pretend we want to create a new legacy, going to step 2, select a VL, and here it is. You can see that that virtual legacy was blanked out and returned back to a new state, and therefore it shows up here in my list of new VLs. Those are all the basic features of a virtual legacy. So let's take a few moments now and open that virtual legacy back up into draft mode. And let's go through some of the additional options, which is going to overlap greatly the additional options that I covered in the how to create an echo video, because it's essentially the same thing. But let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this new virtual legacy. I was on step 2, so it brought me to step 3, giving me the option to actually tamper with my common file storage right here, right now, if I want to. And just remember, this is the same common file storage that you have access to when you go ahead over here on the menu bar and you click My Uploads. It's the same thing. You only have one common file storage. But let's bypass this because I'm happy with everything the way it is here. I'm going to go ahead and click number 4, Create the VL. And now that we have this VL back as a draft, let me go ahead and scroll down just a little bit and draw your attention to this button. It's essentially a button, but it says Additional Options. And if I click it once, it's going to expand down an additional options section, most of which is identical to in Echo's additional options. So just as a quick overview, because I do cover a lot of this in the How to Create an Echo instruction video, in this dotted line box, we have the option to send this virtual legacy to the public domain. So that means, let's just suppose that I'm a creative and I have artistic works and I want to release it to the public in 25 years. I can do that by check marking this box, send to public domain, and supplying a public title. And if you remember from the Echo instruction video, the reason why there's a public title in addition to a subject is because this subject is double encrypted, which you can see represented by these double locks. And so is the message, by the way. It is double encrypted. And when an item is double encrypted, it's very hard to search through. It's not efficient at all and not quick to search through something that's double encrypted. So we do ask for a public title, a title that might be more suitable to someone in the far future coming and searching and having the potential to find your virtual legacy. So if I'm a creative, I might say Original Music Works of Kevin DeForge. And that might be my public title. The next section down here gives me 3 optional dates: expiry date, notify me date, and make public date. The expiry date simply means that at a date after the send date that I choose, I can put another date in here, and this virtual legacy will not be accessible after that date. The notify me date is simply a date before the send date that I want to be notified by Echodify that I have this virtual legacy that is ready to be sent. And lastly, the make public date is very similar to this dotted line box, send to public domain. And what this simply means is I want this virtual legacy first to be delivered to my recipients, which I don't have any here, at the send date or upon the send date. But at some date after that, say maybe 5 years after that, after my close friends and family have had a chance to enjoy my original music works, I still want those released to the public domain, and so I will choose a date here that is 5 years after my send date. Again, keeping in mind that this virtual legacy does have an ultimate expiration date of December 23rd, 2053. Last but not least, in this section, in a second dotted line box, I have some additional options here that are really interesting. The first one is send upon receipt of death certificate. And if I click this, what this means is you have enabled an option that empowers us at Echodify to receive a death certificate from basically someone that you might have told or entrusted or given instructions to send us a death certificate. And once we receive that and validate it, we will then go ahead and release this virtual legacy to well, your recipient list, or however you configured it, it will basically be automatically delivered. And finally, there's an option here, send also to myself. Just like in Echo, if I check mark that box, then when this virtual legacy is sent to my recipients list, I will also be treated essentially like a recipient. I will get a notification that this virtual legacy is delivered. And that is the additional options here available to me. And you can expand and collapse that just by clicking additional options. Last but not least, on a virtual legacy, let me draw your attention back to the top where it says properties. So if I click that, it's going to expand this reference area, and it's going to just give me some statistics that are attributes of this virtual legacy. And first I can see, again, my total space is reiterated here, 500 megabytes. Max time span, 30 years. Start date, December 23rd, 2023. That's when I purchased this virtual legacy. End date is simply 30 years after that, 2053. I have my legacy ID, which is the unique identifier for this virtual legacy. I have a product ID in case for whatever reason I need that, and that is simply the unique identifier of the particular type of virtual legacy product this is. And I have a transaction ID, and this is the transaction on which I've purchased this virtual legacy. I can go ahead if I want to and click it. Let's just open it up in a new tab. And if I do that, I can actually review the transaction details of that virtual legacy. And you can see all the information is the same. It makes sense. Some additional stuff here. One-time payment, I paid $71 for it. Return status, it's way beyond 30 days, so I cannot return it any longer. If I want to, I can click on the legacy ID to be brought back to that legacy. But I opened it up in a new tab, so I'm just going to go to my former tab here. And that's the reference information that's given to me. Now, there are 3 buttons here that currently don't work, but soon will. And they are split, add space, and add time. I don't want to spend too much time on what these buttons will do, except just to give you a very quick overview. Split means I have a 500 megabyte virtual legacy here. I have too much space in this VL for what I want to use it for. I would like to split it into 2 different distinct virtual legacies, equal in size to 250 megabyte virtual legacies. That button would allow you to do that, of course, free of charge because you've already purchased the data storage. Add space simply will allow you to purchase additional data storage space on this particular virtual legacy, expanding 500 megabytes out to whatever you would want. And add time would allow you to increase the time that this virtual legacy is good for. So right now it's 30 years. We're already a little bit into that 30-year time span. And if you wanted to add time, you could just by pressing that button. They don't work right now, but those are buttons that will work in the near future. Let me click Properties again just to collapse that back. And that, in a nutshell, is everything you need to know about virtual legacies. And thank you for your attention, and have a wonderful day.